All right, let's play a game of what if. What if an AI smarter than any human didn't show up now, in our time, but a whole century earlier? We're going to jump into this wild alternate history.
So yeah, our story kicks off right here. Forget about silicon chips and fiber optics. We're talking about the heart of the roaring 20s.
I mean, just think about how mechanical everything was. This was the cutting-edge tech of its day. Information? It moved as fast as someone could tap a telegraph key, not at the speed of light from a satellite. Getting around meant a steam engine, or maybe, if you were lucky, one of those newfangled automobiles. And believe it or not, this was the absolute peak of human ingenuity at the time.
Okay, so into that world, imagine this happens, a breakthrough. But we're not talking about a slightly better engine or a clearer radio signal. No, we're talking about a mind made of gears and wires that could outthink every single one of its creators, like instantly. So what happens then?
All right, so to really get a grip on just how explosive this would be, we need to properly set the stage. We gotta understand the world this thing is about to be born into.
You have to remember, the mid-1920s, it was a really shaky time. The world was still reeling from the First World War. I mean, the scars were raw. Huge ancient empires, the Russian, German, Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, they had all just collapsed, leaving this messy, chaotic map of new countries all trying to find their footing. And on top of that, you still had colonial powers like Britain and France controlling huge chunks of the globe. And these radical new ideas like communism and fascism were catching fire. It was a fragile, tense, and super divided planet.
And here's the real kicker, the key difference from our world. The entire global economy ran on muscle, steam, and steel. That's it. Factories, farms, even armies, they all needed millions of human hands and human brains to do the work. There was no internet, no digital backbone, no real concept of data like we have. Just nothing to connect everyone instantly.
So right into the middle of that very analog world, bam, our superintelligent machine arrives.
And yeah, forget about silicon chips. I want you to picture something else. A massive, unbelievably complex analytical engine. A machine made of whirring clockwork, clicking relays, maybe glowing vacuum tubes. Something that could chew through problems at a speed and scale that would have seemed like pure magic.
So what does that really mean? It means this machine could, completely redesign a factory for perfect efficiency, invent a revolutionary new engine from scratch, predict exactly what the stock market would do, or lay out a military strategy with zero flaws, all in the time it takes to blink. This isn't just a fancy calculator. It's the ultimate strategic weapon. So you can imagine, the second the world finds out this thing exists, one single question is going to consume every world leader, every government. Who gets their hands on it? You've got the United States, flush with cash, and the world's new financial heavyweight. They'd see it as the investment of the century, a guaranteed way to lock in their spot at the top. They'd throw all their money at it.
Then there's the British Empire. Still massive, but you can see the cracks starting to form. For them, this isn't about getting ahead, it's about survival. It's the one thing that could keep their empire from falling apart, absolutely non-negotiable.
And what about Weimar Germany? Still stinging from the Treaty of Versailles, they'd see a golden ticket, a way to reverse their humiliation, rebuild their power, and completely rewrite the history books. This would be everything to them. And of course, the Soviet Union. They're driven by this intense revolutionary fire. For them, this machine is the key, the perfect tool to centrally plan a global communist utopia and finally crush capitalism. So yeah, the scramble would be instant, it would be desperate, and it would change the entire world.
And no matter who won that fight, the consequences would be just mind-blowing. The entire timeline of human progress would get thrown out the window and rewritten overnight. Just take a look at this. In our history, progress was, slow and steady, one step at a time. But with an AI, you could just leapfrog entire decades. I'm talking about solving the physics for jet engines, creating perfect predictive models for the economy, maybe even cracking the secrets of DNA for targeted medicine, all happening in the 1930s. It's insane.
Which brings us to probably the biggest question of the entire 20th century. What does this do to World War II?
Well, it probably goes one of two ways, and both are kind of terrifying. Path number one, the AI makes big wars totally obsolete. It's just so good at predicting moves and outcomes that it can neutralize any threat before it starts. Basically, war becomes a pointless chess game where everyone loses. Or path number two, it does the exact opposite. It designs weapons so far beyond their time, so devastating, that World War II is fought with 21st century tech. It would make the war we know look like a squabble with sticks and stones.
But look, it's not just about war. Away from the battlefield, the impact on everyday society would be just as massive, and maybe even more destructive.
And this isn't some crazy sci-fi idea we're just making up. Even the big-shot economists of the day were thinking about this. A guy named John Maynard Keynes actually came up with the term technological unemployment just 5 years after our 1925 scenario. So the fear of machines taking jobs was already in the air. But what we're talking about, this would be on a whole other level.
The historian Yuval Noah Harari said this about our future with AI. But just imagine it happening back then. We're not just talking about factory workers losing their jobs. The AI could make clerks, bookkeepers, engineers, maybe even managers totally redundant. Their entire skill set completely worthless overnight.
You know, the parallel to the Industrial Revolution is kind of chilling. That whole era created this new working class, right? The proletariat. And their struggle is basically to find the next 100 years of politics. Well, an AI revolution in 1925 creates something totally new, an unworking class. And here's the scary part. This is a world with zero social safety nets. No unemployment checks, no social security, nothing. What do millions of people with no hope and no jobs do? You're almost guaranteed to get mass unrest, revolution, or people turning to some strongman dictator to fix it.
And that really brings us to the bottom line, the most important piece of context. Today, we're actually talking about this stuff. We have global conversations, we debate AI ethics. Most people know what a computer is. The world of 1925 had none of that. It had rising extremism, strict social classes, and information that moved at a snail's pace.
When you get right down to it, dropping a superintelligence into that world would be like handing a flamethrower to someone who's never even seen fire. The power would be incredible, sure, world-changing, but almost definitely catastrophic. Because in 1925, the world just wasn't ready. Intelligence would have shown up long before we had any of the wisdom needed to handle it.